So, I've been just wasting my time watching random YouTube videos, and I've stumbled upon some The Cat Lady content I haven't seen before. Specifically, this short in-engine bonus story after the events of the game by Rem Michalski himself, depicting some cozy scenes of Susan and Mitzi being pals, a bunch of little jokes, and a cameo from Downfall's Joe Davis. And I thought, screw it, I could talk about The Cat Lady again. I've been following Harvester games for a long time now, with The Cat Lady being my first love out of the studio's catalog. Yet, to this day, it feels like The Cat Lady just stands the test of time with flying colors, and remains the most fondly remembered game from Harvester's catalog. Of course, there are some outliers. Some might argue that Downfall Redux was the best one as a video game, since getting the best ending in it is the most challenging, or that starting with Lorelei, the presentation improves together with the engine's change to Unity. If you've seen my Burnhouse Lane review, you'll know that I think it finally matches up to the Cat Lady's fame, but there's something about the Cat Lady that just resonates with people. If you'll allow me some introspection in this video, I want to say that it feels a bit odd making a video about this game again. Back in the day, I used to make Let's Plays, as that was the thing on YouTube, and The Cat Lady was among the first games I covered. It was a lot of years ago. Not only was the climate of the internet different, but I was way different as a person, a lot less mature, and so naturally those early Let's Play days make me cringe now.
Mitzi, why did you break my cup?
Miss Ashworth, I'm
God
so
damn it.
sorry. Your mug, it was an accident.
You was an accident.
Yeah. Most of the Let's Plays I've done, I feel could be better off as reviews now, but at the same time I feel like I had already expressed my thoughts, and redoing things would just be redundant, even if the quality would be better. I feel like I have some different things to say about The Cat Lady, however. This video isn't going to be a review. I'm not going to cover the game mechanics or analyze the plot beat by beat. Instead, I want to examine what it is about The Cat Lady that sticks out so much, making it the flagship of Harvester games. If you're watching this video, I trust you're already well familiar with The Cat Lady. But for those uninitiated, The Cat Lady is an adventure game released in 2012 by Harvester Games, about a 40-something-year-old lady named Susan Ashworth, who has been through some tough shit in her life and ended up being the depressed cat lady who took her own life. In the beginning of the game, a supernatural entity called the Queen of Maggots resurrects Susan, very ironically grants her immortality, but in return makes her kill 5 terrible people she calls parasites. Throughout the game, Susan encounters plenty of adversities, has to escape a psych ward, be killed multiple times, struggle with her regular life due to her deteriorating mental condition, but most importantly, she meets Mitzi, a terminally ill girl who, despite being fated to die, has an infinitely more positive outlook on life than the immortal Susan, and becomes her dear friend through all the struggles. When I hear people talk about The Cat Lady, most often they're examining the plot and the themes it carries, as it is the core of the game. It is a very story-driven experience, but the thing that struck out to me personally is the presentation. At first glance, it's kind of rough. In comparison to the newer games, it's definitely rough, and it makes sense. Releasing indie games was even more troublesome back in the day than it is now, both when it comes to availability of tools and resources, and publishing. It feels like there are tons of games coming to Steam daily now, but The Cat Lady came when indies had to be greenlit on Steam, and that was the occasion of that little video I mentioned earlier being released. With these circumstances, and the developer's experience at the time, The Cat Lady's presentation is visibly amateurish. And I like it. I can't speak for everyone here, but that collage-looking visual style resonated with me as soon as I saw the game in motion. There are both drone and photographic elements. Some of them are realistic, while some are stylized and trippy, adorned with colorful pre-rendered lights. It looks like a grunge rock music video in a video game form, and I'm 110% here for it. Ever since I was a kid, I would see rock music videos and I would think, I want to do that. And the cat lady evoked the same feeling. I've dabbled in game development myself, and it would be nice if I actually managed to make something one day, if I'm ever less swamped by other things in my life. But I distinctly remember seeing the cat lady and thinking that if I made a game, that's how it would probably look. I absolutely love the photo-based environments, and the jank animations are endearing. I mean, look at this silly goober. It's adorable. If anything, the amateurish look of the game ends up making it more relatable to an aspiring game developer or an artist. It shows that something rough around the edges can still kick a lot of ass. It was probably the best that could be achieved using Adventure Game Studio in a time before Unity or Unreal engines became easily accessible, and it was among the simplest game engines to begin with, not counting RPG Maker. Yet even after Lorelei and Burnhouse Lane having real-time lighting, smooth animations, proper 3D elements and all that jazz, I still feel like the cat lady holds up. It does look dated in comparison, at least on a technical level, but it has this timeless quality of rebellious punk rock. It doesn't matter that it's rough, because that's the point. The game's soundtrack is also somehow the most memorable in Harvester's games catalog for me. I'm not even sure why, maybe I just listen to it the most, but there's just something about it. It does feel like it goes perfectly together with the visuals. And same with the voice acting. It can be rough, it's not always perfect quality, but the delivery conveys the exact message it needs to. I might even say that the imperfect presentation of the game works well because it's a story about imperfect people. I sometimes even miss that rough quality in the newer games, but I guess, ultimately, it's still better to try to improve and not get stuck at one place. Still, since day one, I've been in love with the way the cat lady looks and sounds, not despite, but partially because of its rough edges. And since I feel that way, I imagine there must be more people that think the same way, right? Of course, it would be a very shallow examination of this story-driven game if I only focused on the presentation. So what about the plot? What makes this story of the cat lady resonate with people as much as it does? All of Harvester Games' entries share a same design ethos. At their core, they're all about people with some very human issues. They're all pretty sensitive stories, and they're all intertwined with slasher-like villains and other horror genre-specific absurdities on top. Now this is something I couldn't have said back when I was originally let's playing the cat lady, because that's a realization I've had as I've gained more life experience. But I think such a story about depression specifically meets the players where they're at. Susan always felt like an incredibly relatable protagonist for me, and it's only now starting to make more sense to me. With time, I was left with less and less real-life friends who I met through just random circumstances, and instead found more and more friends online who actually share common interests with me. It would be the type of people who, like myself, would enjoy these more thoughtful and obscure video games, like The Cat Lady, Path Logic, Garage Bad Dream Adventure, Fear and Hunger, and so on. It's a more introverted, chronically online type of person. My crowd. I'm not entirely sure if somehow that's just the kind of people I meet, or if it's the way mental disorders became a more openly discussed and commonly treated problem, or the combination of the two. But in my experience, more often than not, these kind of people, the sort of friends I would make, would suffer from or would be taking medication for some sort of mental disorder. Quite commonly, depression. Susan Ashworth already felt like a very convincingly written human being to me, and I imagine she must feel even closer to home when also suffering from depression and suicidal thoughts. Gaming is a mostly introverted hobby to begin with, and being into these more obscure games that are not dopamine farms takes a specific kind of person, who's probably more lonely and willing to commit time to researching something like that. Someone who's closed off in their own bubble of hyper-specific interests, somewhat of an outcast. Of course it can happen to anyone, but my experience shows me that it's this kind of person who might be prone to depression themselves, so the cat lady themes are sort of a natural and relatable fit. Another thing that makes the cat lady resonate is its choice of video game medium. There are plenty of hobbies introvert people might indulge in. Literature could be a good fit. Harvester games are quite inspired by Stephen King. Downfall could make quite a great film in the vein of The Shining. But the cat lady shines specifically as a video game, and is something that ties things together in the ending of the game. The whole game, Susan spends her time hunting down these parasites, murderers and psychopaths. Yet the last one she meets is Eye of Adam, a pathetic paralyzed internet troll. Granted, a hyperbolized version of one that convinces people online to kill themselves. And then, regardless of the ending the player gets, Susan ends up slowly learning to come to terms with her condition by participating in an online forum, where she vents herself and attempts to help other people with similar issues. She's slowly learning not to just live, but also smile again. In that way, out of all the antagonists, the internet troll becomes the most like an antithesis to Susan, with both of them being active members of online communities with the complete opposite goals. As computer-savvy people, gamers would be the sort of audience that would be quite familiar with online communities and trolls, making the ending even more relatable. I myself can attest to that, since most of my friends these days live on completely different parts of the planet, yet I feel like I can be completely open with them. I can trust them to hear me out, and I know I'll try my best to be there for them when they need someone to talk to as well. Rewatching the cat lady's ending after meeting all these people with various conditions online only made the ending resonate deeper with me. And you know, I must say I really like that ending, especially the best version of it, where Mitzi, the one genuine friend Susan makes throughout the game, survives, and they keep being there for each other. I wouldn't consider myself a depressed person, let alone a suicidal one, thankfully. But sometimes I myself too get overwhelmed with life, get sick of the mundane, and sort of lose any motivation to pursue things I actually care about anymore, because it starts feeling pointless, and I myself grow apathetic. Despite not always being physically alone, I would end up feeling lonely, and it's often those connections I make that keep me going. No matter how distant and insignificant they might feel. Those online people might live half the globe away from me, but it absolutely helps communicating with someone who can relate and understand. Sometimes there's no one close by that can understand you, so those online people end up being the only way. In a way, this whole channel is an outlet like that for me. Considering how long it's been going, the channel is not successful by far. I simply do it because I feel like doing it. And I started doing these videos as an escape from the mundanity and loneliness. So I want to thank all of my dear online friends. Shoot me a message if you're watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And I want to thank you, the viewer, too. Those damn comments about my accent, or people automatically assuming I can understand the Russian remarks aside, it's been great hearing from you in the comment section too. It's quite a great feeling, knowing that someone who I've never met in my life might relate to the things I have to say. And that's why I think the cat lady's story about overcoming depression and learning to cope with it through finding people who might actually care resonates with people like myself, who might or might not be isolated internet dwellers yearning for a relatable soul. Oh, and also the cats. The cats are very cool and relatable. I have two. Thank you, and bye bye.